Have you ever sent out 20 job applications, went through a super long interview process thinking that you got the job, and ended up still getting rejected? Or maybe you're like me, about to be a senior in college, yet still don't really know what you want to do after graduation. Well, this is the episode for you. Hey everyone, this is Rick, and welcome back to The Seed, The Startup Journey, the entrepreneurship podcast sharing the origin stories of amazing founders and their companies in under 20 minutes. In this episode, our guest Howard Sung will share with you the story of how his job application was rejected, and yet he still ended up getting his dream job, which also planted the seed for the startup he's running now called FindRecruiter, Asia's largest recruiter hub. Hey Howard, thank you so much for coming onto our podcast today. To start us off, could you tell us a little bit about yourself as well as your company, FindRecruiter?
Yes, thanks, Rick. Thanks for having me. So my name's Howard, COO and co-founder of FindRecruiter. We're inspired to be Asia's largest recruitment hub. We are currently managing a platform of over 500 recruiters and 100 employers. A bit about myself, although I run a tech company, when I'm not working, I'm usually quite an offline person. So I enjoy coffee chats and exchanging ideas with other people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's awesome. And when I was doing a little bit of research, I found your blog on Medium, and I saw that your title is Wannapreneur turned entrepreneur. So I was wondering, have you always wanted to become an entrepreneur?
Yeah, I think it's always been in my blood. I would say my dad is the biggest inspiration for me because he is a small business owner, and he's just given me a lot of insight. So in fact, the reason why I enjoy recruitment so much is because there are so many similarities to running your own business, from understanding your clients to reaching out to the market for suitable candidates to negotiating contracts, closing deals. It's very similar, and I really enjoy that.
Yeah, and talking about like recruitment, because I found a pretty cool story that you wrote on Medium as well. It's about when you were first trying to get your first job at Michael Page. And in a blog post, you talked about how you went through a very long process, but in the end, you didn't get accepted. But I saw at the very bottom of the post, you said, in the next post, you'll talk about how you actually ended up working on Michael Page, but I wasn't able to find that next post. So I'm just really curious, like, what is that story? Like, how did you end up still working there?
Yeah. No, so thanks for reading that. And yes, that was my bad because I didn't get around to finishing the story. But I'll just fill it here, and I promise I'll finish it soon. I'll definitely send you the link after that. So the story was, I went through almost a full day of interviews, and I must have met over 10 senior people in the process. And thinking confidently that I probably get the job, right? Meeting so many people. And as a fresh grad back then, that was a pretty big deal. Obviously, they ended up rejecting me. And after the rejection, I ended up taking an internship job somewhere else, but kept in touch with one of the directors there, Dom, who I had met during the interview. When my intern job came to an end, I reached out to Dom again and asked for a coffee, just basic, catch up, right, to see what he thought. But instead of answering to that, he basically wrote me a long list of reasons why I was rejected, and eventually asked me to give those pointers some thoughts. That was super helpful because that got me to thinking about my career and the job in a very different perspective. And because of that, I think I ended up getting that job.
Got it. Yeah. And does that story have anything to do with the founding of FindRecruiter? Like, what planted the seed for you guys to create and come up with this idea?
Definitely. I think being exposed to recruitment, in general, planted that seed. And it was like since probably the first few months of working in the industry, got me thinking how we can improve, certain things. Obviously, it took me almost 10 years to really uproot myself from the recruitment game to found FindRecruiter. But the basic idea is recruiters work very long hours, especially in Asia. And because the industry is somewhat broken, guys would spend 50 to 60% of their time making cold calls, trying to get new business, find the right clients to work with. And then half of those jobs aren't actually workable, or what we call fillable, because we weren't domain experts and we can't really find the right candidates quickly enough, right? Then as a vicious cycle, this gives recruiters a very bad rep. If you Google recruiters are today, you'll find top suggestions to be garbage, liars, and all sorts of bad things. And this is because we are almost always using the wrong recruiters. So the idea is to really make use of technology and data to understand recruiters' abilities and specialisms so that when employers need to hire, we're able to quickly appoint the right guys to help. You can say that we're on a mission to drive efficiency and make hiring through recruiters the most effective and painless way.
And how are you guys doing that? Like, are you using some sort of fancy AI technology algorithm to, empower your search?
Yeah. So again, like I'm not super techie, but I can explain a little bit in layman terms. Say, for example, Rick, you were a recruiter on the platform today, and you're helping one of our clients hire software engineers, and you've done a good job in it. And you started sending good CVs in, and they have good engagement, like, arranged interviews and making successful placements at the end. Then eventually when the next client comes along and of a similar size and they have a similar job, then we would know how to pinpoint, Rick as being one of the top recruiters for a software engineer, position. So that's the idea behind it. Obviously, the algorithm and the AI behind it is a lot more sophisticated, but that's how it basically works. Data making it more accurate and more trustworthy.
Got it. And talking a little bit more about, the founding, the origin story, was it easy to get started? Because you and your co-founder Lawton are both like very experienced in the recruiting industry. So I'd imagine maybe you could, leverage some of your network or your experience to jumpstart your business. Was that kind of how it happened?
Yeah, so great question. So it's definitely more convincing to others when we tell them we're ex-recruiters trying to build this platform, right? But realistically, I think the knowledge that we had played a double-edged sword for us because we had a lot of bias within the industry or how things should be run, right? Because we both have around 10 years of experience, and stacked up, we're thinking, certain features would work or would not work based on our own sort of bias or based on our own knowledge, right? So some of these bias really played against us because right now our certain features that are on the platform, we thought would never work, ended up being big, huge game changers for us. And this was probably an unexpected challenge for me because you almost have to forget everything you knew to really learn about your users. Although they might come from the same industry, but they would have a very different behavior to how you think you would react. So that's probably one of the biggest challenge we had as co-founders with relevant background.
Yeah. And I know a lot of the entrepreneurs I talk to would talk about, trying to build up an MVP and then testing out your idea first. Was that kind of like what you guys were doing as well, testing out which features would actually be, adopted by the market?
Yeah, but we didn't have like an arsenal of features that like we were testing out. It was more like, will this platform be beneficial to our users, right? And so we brought out an MVP, or what we thought was an MVP, but ended up getting feedback that there were certain features that were completely useless, and there, on the other hand, were features that we thought were probably extras that they thought were essentials.
Yeah. And I know that starting a company is kind of like a roller coaster, right? Like you could be at the very top this morning, and then in the afternoon you could hit rock bottom. So what I'd love to, find out more about is kind of those bottoms for you guys. Like, could you share with us some of those, most challenging times or some of your failures?
Yeah, for sure. I'm so tempted to talk about COVID, right? Because that's probably one of the major or obvious ones. But I did hear that your other guests from other podcasts have shared their fair share of that. So let me share something else that's a little bit different. Because one of the most challenging times that I can remember was when we had that initial product, that MVP that we thought was ready to market, and then the moment that we realized what we originally thought was a good idea didn't work, and coming to realization and being able to accept that we were wrong, and the need to pivot. That was probably one of the most challenging times because the three of us had no contingency plans of, okay, if this doesn't work, then what else? And having to navigate through that time was an eye-opener and also really challenging for the business.
Yeah. And along the way, like, have you ever thought about, giving up, or like, what keeps you motivated to stay on track?
I think giving up wasn't an option. We were looking for ways to not give up or make it work. And it takes a lot of optimism, right? Like, you have to almost like blindly believe that you're onto something at the very beginning, at least. And you need to convince yourself that, hey, you're doing this for another reason, right? For a reason that's not monetary. Because when it comes to startups, especially at the stage of finding out if this works and finding solutions that will work, it is a lot of bootstrapping, a lot of being scrappy, being resourceful. Those times are definitely tough. So, you have to have, founders and partners that can really bring that same level of energy and bring it to the place where you work and just encourage each other on stuff like that. So yeah, definitely. I think giving up wasn't an option, and it was never an option for any of us. So we just kind of put our heads down and grind it out.
Yeah. And I know that Fine Recruiter is going through AppWorks Accelerator right now. Like, where would you say you guys are along your startup journey? Are you still like struggling to survive, or are you kind of on the hockey stick growth, going to the moon?
In between, right? I would actually define our business to be between maybe early to growth stage. We have a well-defined business model. And we have a small group of people who really enjoy using us, right? And we're itching to grow. So, thankful to AppWorks. I think we're exchanging a lot of ideas with other founders as well, what stage they're at. And we're just grateful for being able to pass the years that we've come and all the lessons learned along the way and all the people that we've met along the way, building this community of recruitment enthusiasts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's awesome, man. Definitely super excited to see what lies ahead. Do you have any advice for someone like me who is still a student, but I'm interested in entrepreneurship and might want to start something of my own in the future?
Yeah, for sure. Just try, right? You won't get it right the first time ever. No one gets it right the first time. Mm-hmm. And, the fact is it won't hurt not to get it right. Even if you don't have an idea of what business you want to build, you can start at the tiniest scale, right? So how I see it is the success of businesses are usually measured by the assets they own, right? Mm-hmm. And your asset is time. Your biggest asset is time. So when you have that, you have unlimited amounts of imagination, and you can do anything with it. And you can be an entrepreneur of your own time, right? And you can sell that to exchange for lessons learned and experience, right? So just try it. Just go ahead and throw yourself on the deep end.
I love that. And what if I don't want to start a company, or maybe not yet, and I want to simply get hired? Like, do you have any insider tips as a recruiting expert on how students or fresh graduates could best land their dream jobs? Yeah.
So I think with Asian descent, I think in our genes, we like to play safe, and we like the big brands. So we want to work with top employers, the advice that I would give, or tips I would give, is to be apparently hungry and to be extra desperate. You must be. You have to be hungrier and more desperate than the next candidate, because you guys are all coming from very similar backgrounds. Even if you had internship experience or some working experience, you still come off as more of a clean slate. So you just have to show that you're more passionate than most of the other people that they meet, right? The employers meet. So there's a good comparison, and you shine, right? And also network, right? And always try to stay in touch as much as possible. Make it easy for the people you meet to remember you, right? But of course, in a good way, right? Like don't go over the top just for someone to remember you. But for example, like that's how I got my first job at Michael Page. And you never know who you meet, and you never know who will be helpful with your career in your future. So just always be there. Yeah.
To kind of follow up on that, because right now I'm about to be a senior. I have basically one more year left until I graduate, and I'm kind of at a point where I'm trying to figure out what I should be doing next. And I've been hearing advice of either starting your own thing or joining someone's startup, or going to a larger company to work first, and then if I want to start something, then go from there. So do you think it's better to work maybe a few years first and then doing your own startup, or you think it's good to just jump right into it?
So it depends how clear your goals are, right? I think for someone like myself, because I've always wanted to work for myself and start up my own my own company, I chose a path where I can use the experience that I can gain from a corporate or from a startup, and leverage that knowledge to enable me to start up, right? So like I said, recruitment is sort of like running your own business. Right now, I think the climate is even better for aspiring entrepreneurs, right? Because there are so many more startups nowadays, right? And as a fresh graduate, you can go in there, gain experience as a startup employee, right? Then you know how things are being operated, and leverage off of that knowledge to start your own thing, right? So I would say it's beneficial to go both sides, but it just depends how clear-minded you are on what you want to start. Then try to go the direction that I guess would benefit you the most.
Yeah, awesome. And so I usually try to collect some questions from my audience, and this one is actually submitted by your co-founder, Ted. He informed me that, you recently adopted a dog.
Yeah.
Do you think that, because I've seen other entrepreneurs talk a lot about their pets and how those like influence their own like startup journey. Do you think adopting this dog also has any, significant influence on you or anything?
Okay. Yeah. So I think there are definitely similarities to having adopted my dog, because he came in when his eyes were still closed. So he was probably 4 days old when we got him. And we weren't sure because we were just fostering for a larger organization, in Hong Kong. But as time goes, you see it grow, right? And your passion grows with it as well, right? So it's similar to a startup where you might be unsure at the beginning, and things can go unexpectedly, right? And seeing it grow definitely adds more interest to the game, right? Because you have so much vested interest and time, energy and resource to the startup or to a pet or whatever. Yeah, that would really, there are definitely similarities.
That's awesome. And so I also prepared a quick game. It's called Underrated, Overrated. Right, the first one, blockchain.
Overrated.
Overrated.
A lot of people would kill me for this, but I think a lot of people are trying to use blockchain as a gimmick to their startups. But I think it has some validity to the idea, but it's overused right now.
So you're not thinking of including blockchain technology with Find Recruiter?
No, we're definitely thinking it, but we're not marketing as a blockchain company, if you know what I mean, right?
Yeah.
I think a lot of people are using that as a stunt more than actually incorporating it for good use.
Gotcha. And then this next one, resumes.
Overrated. It must have been over 100 years, right? It's very two-dimensional or one-dimensional in a way. The next thing that they should be doing is, video recording, video resumes, right? And I think it's a thing now, and it's on an uptrend.
I think that definitely captures people's attention a lot more. This next one, Gary V.
Ooh, big fan. Just right. I think just right. I wouldn't say overrated, underrated, because he's already really well known. So just right.
What about sending recruiters a LinkedIn request?
I don't see a lot of people doing that.
Really?
So I guess underrated, right? It's good to connect with recruiters because it is the best way to have a pulse in the market. So definitely underrated. You should reach out to as many relevant recruiters as possible.
Got it. And then this last one, Brooklyn Nets.
Overrated. I don't like super teams. And even if they do win a ring, I mean, it's pretty much buying it, right? Yeah, so overrated.
All right, so this is the very last question, which is, what is the best advice you've ever received?
So always be the authentic you, right? Some people might not like it, but at least you're attracting the right crowd. So always be genuine, be yourself. And, if they like you, they like you. If they don't, it's fine. There are so many people in the world that you're going to meet. Don't be afraid to be yourself.
Yeah, I love that. And I don't think you can make everyone like you as well. So
no.
Yeah.
You're just going to lose yourself if you keep doing that.
For sure. Awesome. So this is it for today's interview. Thank you so much for coming on again. And I wish you the best of luck. I hope you enjoyed this episode. My main takeaways from chatting with Howard are how to land your dream job by being extra hungry, how our biggest asset right now as a student is time, and to always stay authentic. Now, I'll be discussing these takeaways in more detail in a separate episode, which will be available a few days after this one is out. So if you're interested, definitely stay tuned on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. With that, let's grow our seed of innovation and creativity together, and I'll see you next time.